Welcome to Turning the Page. I'm host Donnie Morse of Confetti Antiques and Books. And today we have with us Brad Bertelsen. Brad, welcome to the program. Glad to have you here. Brad's written a book about a life experience that you've had and about a roadmap to recovery. Tell us a little bit about yourself first, Brad.
Okay, well, I grew up locally. I grew up in Springville and went to high school here. And when I was a senior in high school, some of my buddies and I, we thought it'd be kind of fun to go get some beer one night, and we did that. And I started down a path that took me, that I didn't realize would take me into severe addiction, alcoholism. And the last 7 years I was out there as a practicing alcoholic, I didn't have a sober day. So it's kind of a sad story, but the story after that is, of course, becomes rather miraculous, and I've had some great opportunities and growth and recovery. So
for 18 years, you off and on alcoholic, 7 years hard alcoholic. To tell us a little bit, you were able to have a job, go to school, graduate, all that?
Yeah, I was, in spite of all that, I graduated from BYU, and I work in banking. I still work in that profession. And I was what they call in AA and other 12-step groups a high-functioning alcoholic. But it had got to the point where I was pretty much drinking around the clock, and would drink in the mornings before I'd go to work. How I kept my job, I'm not sure, but anyway, it got to be quite invasive in my life, to where it was pretty interrupted my life a lot. You know, it's a pretty horrible life at the end.
And so July 31st, 1989?
Yeah, what had happened, 2 years prior to that, one day I was walking to work on a Saturday.
Why were you walking?
I was walking because I'd already had 3 DUIs and been to jail and didn't want to get more. So, my solution was, I never blamed the alcohol. It was always something else. That was part of my denial. And so I was walking to work, and I passed a club, the Millennial club, where AA meetings are held. And I, thinking that was a bar, on my way to work, I was going to go inside and drink. And I instead looked in the window and saw the 12 steps and 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I didn't really think about it. There's 3 words in step 1 that caught my attention that said powerless over alcohol. And I convinced myself I really wasn't. I could really quit whenever I wanted to, that I could quit whenever I wanted to. And then I found that I couldn't over the next 2 years. I do what we call in AA research, and did 2 more years of research, which was daily drinking. And then I hit a bottom, I had a real sad experience one day when I encountered my father, and I was kind of getting ready for maybe another argument or another, and when he walked into the room, he just started to cry, and when I looked into his eyes and saw that his hopelessness, it was like looking into a mirror, and that horrible feeling of impending doom that we talk about in recovery sometimes did not go away that whole day. And this was 2 years later. And so on July 17th, 1989, I was driving by that same Millennial club, and I remembered those 3 words, powerless over alcohol. And I just happened to pull in, and it just happened to be a Monday night beginners meeting. And the meeting was starting in 10 minutes. I had no idea of any of that, but I know that was a miracle in my life at that time.
Today, our teenagers in school, I don't know how much of a problem alcohol necessarily is, but there is so many other problems that our teenagers are facing. Are addiction problems kind of universal for all the different addictions?
Yes, they seem to be. The 12-step program that originally started with Alcoholics Anonymous has been, we have NA, Narcotics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous. There's all kinds of Overeaters Anonymous. We have all kinds of different. Matter of fact, I heard at one point there were 57 different 12-step groups, and so it covers. And the way I treat them in this book, I treat them all universally, addiction generally. So So we've got all different kinds of, because addiction is a spiritual disease. 12-step recovery is a spiritual program, and the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, what it will say in there is that we are never really cured from alcoholism. What we have is a daily reprieve based upon our spiritual condition.
A daily reprieve. That's it's almost sad, but it's also full of hope.
Yes, it is. And one of the good things about being in recovery, and one of the things I point out in the book, is we get to live for today. We get to enjoy today, because when we're out there practicing our addictions, we're always we lived in guilt from yesterday and fear of tomorrow. And so today was always held hostage. We could never live for today. We're always torn in two directions at the same time. I actually use an example in the book, a scriptural example in there that talks about that, how we're in a sense, in a spiritual basis, we're torn. And so, but then that's one of the joys of recovery, is that we get to live for today, and that's one of the magic things about recovery.
So, Brad, I assume that you've got a PhD in psychology or some other schooling to help you with this?
Actually, all I have is I did attend BYU. I actually did have a bachelor's degree in psychology, but I'm by no means a psychologist or any kind of expert. That was just enough knowledge to kind of confuse me, a bachelor's degree in psychology. I think I did that maybe psychologically, just because I realized maybe I had a problem at that point, and maybe it was to help myself, but I didn't really find recovery in that way. I found recovery more through these steps and through these principles.
So the book is not so much autobiographical as in more, this is the steps that I feel taking scriptures and the AA program and kind of combining it together with your life, how you survived, and how other people can find a roadmap to recovery.
Yes, and one of the nice things about doing this, we have the 12-step program. We have those principles that are actually taught in ancient scripture. They're actually taught in LDS scripture, in the Book of Mormon. They're actually taught in the Bible. Matter of fact, the original 12 steps got their beginning from a group called the Oxford Group, and they actually got those from the New Testament. And so, yes, but one of the nice things is that we have kind of a roadmap in ancient scripture. We have a roadmap. We have, for example, we have an Old Testament feast. I don't want to give away too much of the book, but we have an Old Testament feast that can be likened to celebrating recovery, and it has a lot of parallels to the recovering addict, the symbolism and all of the things surrounding this feast and this event have not only gives us insight, but it has a lot of parallels to tell us how to work a recovery program.
Brad, let's take a break here, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about Millennial Press, who published your book for you. This is Turning the Page. I'm host Donnie Morse, and we have Brad Bertelsen with us. We'll be right back.